I just want to go talk a bit about this 10%, because he actually, okay, thanks. He actually said this at the conference in Vietnam, and we were all charged. He gave the opening talk, and we all went in working groups, as one does. And we all went there saying, right, 10% of our time, we'll actually try and think about changing the curriculum, thinking about what the different knowledge we might want to introduce our students to. And I'll tell you, it's a challenge. And for those of you who've thought about it, we just try and do it. And so I just want to mention this book, because that was the result of the conference. It had theory, it talked about teaching, it talked about curriculum, it talked about diversity. We really tried to make diversity and inclusion a real feature of the whole conference. But all of us struggled with thinking about Seymour's 10%. How can we do this differently given we've got technology? And really what we were trying to do was to use digital technology as a lever for constructionist approaches for teaching and learning, seeing how things work, building and sharing, as Yasmin talked yesterday. So that was behind the whole of the conference. And the quote I really like to use a lot, that Seymour said in 1972, was, let students learn mathematics as applied mathematics, in the sense that mathematical knowledge is an instrument of power, making it possible to do things of independent worth that one could not otherwise do. That's a maxim that I think is really crucial for all of us in mathematics. We're doing something with technology that you literally couldn't do without it, and that's our justification. And if we follow that, we'll manage a bit more of Seymour's 10%, and we'll get more people involved in our subject. That's the goal. So when you realise the potential of coding, now we're looking at coding, you have to think about teaching, you have to think about research, you have to think about design, fundamentally design, because you have to design things differently, and then you do your perhaps 10%. So that, in a way, is what's driven our work for the last 15 years. And I want to actually mention this quote from Doug Clements, who did a lot of work with Logo way back. But he says the following: a major issue is to investigate is what students can do and learn after programming computer projects throughout their educational career. The tantalizing suggestions of long-term and delayed effects of computer programming suggest unrealized potential of such a long-range approach. Now the thing is, in England, it's not UK, it's England, actually does have the possibility of doing that now. Because we have, for all its challenges, we have a mandatory curriculum from age 5 to age 16. So we will have students who have a long-term engagement with programming. And to follow Doug Clements' agenda, what will be the potential? How will the school system exploit that potential? Now, first of all, we have to ponder why we will do better this time. Because those of us who were involved in programming in the 80s, we had massive successes, but we also had some failures. And by, I think, 15 years later, programming was almost a dirty word. I remember having earnest conversations with people saying, well, maybe we shouldn't use the programming word. Because immediately people said programming didn't work, quoting lots of rather spurious results, I might say. But why would we do better now? Obviously, there's much more hardware around. We've all got personal devices. Kids have got personal devices that they customize. There's lots of different modalities that you can experience mathematics with. You can touch, you can feel, alongside just the symbolic. There's all these online resources that you can model, which you mentioned film, that you can model in music and in art and all these other things that require computer programming. And collaboration, which is what Yasmin mentioned yesterday, which is crucial. You can share your stuff so much more easily. We all spend half our time, no, much more than half our time on the web. So all our social networks can be used to help us. We can use new metaphors for connectivity and collaboration. And as far as mathematics is concerned, and a wonderful example was computer animation, and the film that Richard showed, it involves mathematical modeling. So all of those things say we might do better this time, because programming is so ubiquitous. But what we've got to do as a challenge for us in England, thinking about the computing curriculum, it's not called a coding curriculum, it's called computing at schools, It's to build on the coding movement, which is massive, which is outside school. How can you actually align the two and build on it? And I just want to mention this young girl who comes from the East End of London, and I happened to be at UCL at an event, and she told me something about the coding and why she got involved in it. And I wish I had a photograph of her. You know, she was quite an orthodox Muslim young woman, and I'm just going to quickly read what she said. My name is Muslim Amir. I'm a 15-year-old girl studying in Year 10 at Eastleigh Community School in East London. We try to create art in pairs. 16 girls from West Indies and 16 girls in London, so it's connectivity across the world. That's wonderful. We use a website called, I don't know what it was, doesn't matter. My partner and I received a brief containing a short list of words under the category of health. We developed and experimented an interactive art piece together. The code we created showed an orange, and if we clicked on it, it would look as if it was being eaten away, causing bursts of energy to be released across the pitch black screen. In fact, she won the prize, she and her partner. Before this opportunity, I was more or less fixated on the commercialized image you get of computer programming being a person consumed by small digits on a screen and only producing gaming material. Although the 4-day-long project made me sit in front of a computer screen for a good, for a good 8 hours per day, I wiped out that initial image almost instantly. Oh God, he obviously doesn't like me reading it. It tested my, I must finish, because it tested my patience, as coding requires a lot of components coming together. And something as small as a semicolon broke or made your overall piece. Because coding, too much of the hype about coding is it's also easy and you can make things. It isn't. It actually regards tenacity and patience, as Muslima said. I felt amazed at the amount of sheer intelligence I was surrounded with. The girls involved had extraordinary ideas, and the teachers' guests involved provided an eye-opening perspective on how coding affects them. The atmosphere in itself was something that made me still find it difficult to comprehend how I was asked to join in. Typical girl, she said, she was no good. Why on earth should I have been asked? It was refreshing, challenging, and saturating in knowledge I could only soak in bit by bit. Now, why I wanted to read that is A, she was a very traditional Muslim young woman. She never did anything like that. She didn't think she was good enough. She was really amazed by the artistic side of coding. But she also didn't flinch from the fact that it was challenging. It took a lot of patience. And what really makes me quite anxious is when everyone said coding's easy. I don't even like the hour of code, because what can you do in an hour? It takes, as Muslima said, days of careful work. And anybody who's done any knows that it takes a lot of time. So we know that, and we know a lot more about programming than we did 20 years ago. Things like, we know that in mathematics you can use coding to link representations. You can explore geometrical structures like the circles that Richard talked about. You can use variables. Okay, it means something slightly different than in mathematics, but the idea of a variable is very important. You can use mathematics as a tool in problem solving. And there's lots of evidence, mainly in Logo, because it was the biggest movement then, about linking programming and enhanced problem solving. And I don't know about in Canada, but in England, far too much of mathematics is just doing procedures and algorithms and calculations. We need more people to be problem solvers, so this is a good way in. And learning to program is an engaging activity. Listen to Muslima, 4 days of doing this for most children, but all the evidence points that it can be done irrespective of social advantage. But unless it's carefully designed and managed and sequenced, it's the advantaged learners, they I dare say mainly boys, who tend to have more to gain. I think we know this. I think when we were doing the work in the 80s, we did realize how much how large groups of people were being excluded. I know there were notable exceptions, and certainly Seymour Papert and the group at MIT were very keen to get everybody involved. But if you looked at the evidence, it always seemed to be the advantaged learners who gained most from these sorts of experiments. So this is what we know is the danger. And so now I'm going to talk about the project that Richard and I have been working on since last September. It's a very peculiar project. But many of you don't know us, but those who do, they might think it's really strange, but What is not strange is trying to link programming and maths and trying to build on all the lessons we learned. Why it's strange, it's a randomised control trial. Now, I think we both remember railing against randomised control trials and how really stupid they were, but we're now doing it. Now, we have an excuse for doing this. Partly we got a lot of money to do it, but we're not completely sold out because we think now's the chance to really, we've got a mandatory computing curriculum. We can hijack some of it for the purpose of mathematical problem solving, and we know a lot from the past, from what's been written, but also from what we experience and many people in this room have been with us. We think it's possible now because programming is infrastructural. Everybody in school knows to program. We know what to vary so that we have a treatment group that does what we do, and the others will not be playing football. They will also be doing programming because everybody has to. So it's a different take on programming. And so we have a framework derived over nearly half a century, so we think we know quite a bit. So we're trying to put our money where our mouth is. And we're also spending a lot of time designing the activities.